Welcome to the deep dive. We're jumping straight into a really dynamic time in a little one's life. Those whirlwind months between 13 and 15.
Yeah, it's a period packed with change.
Absolutely. If you're living it right now, you know it's just full of these exciting leaps in skills and, well, a whole new personality kind of emerging.
Exactly. And we've gathered, quite a bit of information to really get a handle on what's typically happening during these specific months.
Right.
Think of this as a focused look, sort of a guide to the key developmental shifts as they properly step into toddlerhood.
That's a great way to put it.
Mm.
Our goal today is really to give everyone listening a clear, confident picture of this phase, what our sources call that toddling, testing, and transforming stage.
Mm-hmm.
We want to unpack what's going on so you feel informed, maybe a little less overwhelmed, and just ready.
Mm.
Okay, so let's dive in, this developmental overview.
Mm.
What are the major changes we see between 13 and 15 months?
Well, physically, the big one is often motor skills. You're likely seeing some pretty impressive progress there.
Like walking.
Yeah, moving beyond needing support, maybe taking those first amazing solo steps, and then building confidence, really toddling around.
Yeah.
And maybe a heads up, you might even start seeing the first attempts at climbing.
Oh boy. Definitely keeps you on your toes. And it's not just the big movements, is it? What about, their hands? Fine motor stuff.
Absolutely. That's refining quite a bit, too. The pincer grasp, using the thumb and forefinger, it gets much more precise.
So they can pick up smaller things.
Exactly. Little bits of food, small toys. You'll also probably see a lot more pointing.
Ah, yes, the pointing face.
It's key communication.
Yeah.
Showing you things. And they might even manage to stack, say, 2 or 3 blocks. This new dexterity really feeds into other things, too, like feeding themselves.
It's fascinating how it all connects. Now, communication. Are we expecting, full sentences yet?
Not usually, no. Full conversations are still a way off for most, but their understanding of simple instructions like, come here, or give me the ball, that's likely growing quite a bit. And it is a really exciting time for language because they might start using maybe 1, maybe up to 5 meaningful words.
Those first words are just magic. Okay, switching gears a bit. What's happening socially and emotionally? It feels like a big shift there, too.
It really is. This can often be a peak time for separation anxiety.
Ah, the clinginess.
Yeah, they might get quite upset when you leave, even for a moment. They're also learning to express frustration more directly.
Early tantrums.
And that's often how it looks, yes.
Yeah.
And you'll probably notice them actively seeking your approval, doing something, and then looking right at you for your reaction.
Yes. That little glance back, it's so telling.
Yeah.
Okay, and cognitively, inside their heads, what kind of problem solving is starting to bubble up?
Their cognitive skills are really taking off. They're starting to figure things out more intentionally, like how to open a simple box or maybe push one toy out of the way to get another.
Oh, wait, more purpose behind their actions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you'll see tons of imitation. They watch you and then they try to copy what you're doing. It's how they learn so much, like little mimics.
Precisely. That rapid connection making is also why they might suddenly figure out how to open that cupboard you thought was secure.
Right. In there. What about the really practical stuff like eating and naps?
Feeding definitely gets more independent. Lots more finger feeding, probably.
Yeah.
And they might start trying to use a spoon or fork. It'll likely be messy, though.
Messy as expected, yeah.
Definitely. And sleep patterns can shift, too. Some toddlers around this time start moving from 2 naps down to just 1 longer one.
Okay, so watch their cues on that one.
Absolutely. The key is always watching your child's cues for tiredness, not just going by the clock or what other kids are doing.
That really highlights tuning into their individual needs. Now, you mentioned imitation, and our sources really stress learning through exploration and repetition. Why is that so fundamental at this stage?
It's crucial because their brains are just forming this huge network of connections. They learn best by doing touching, moving, exploring their environment safely.
Hands-on learning. Totally. And repetition is what strengthens those new pathways in the brain. That's why they might want the same book read 50 times or do the same puzzle over and over.
Okay, that makes sense. It's not boredom for them, it's learning.
Exactly. It's cementing the learning. So providing safe spaces and opportunities for that kind of repeated exploration is really supportive. They might stack the same blocks, but maybe in a different spot or next to a different toy. Adds a little variety.
Got it. Okay, so that's the big picture. Now let's get a bit more specific. What are some of those key milestones caregivers might be looking out for between 13 and 15 months?
Well, the one everyone watches for is walking, right? Those first independent steps.
Yeah.
Our info suggests seeing anywhere from, say, 1 to 10 independent steps is pretty common as they get started.
Okay, just the beginning then.
Exactly. You might also see them bend down like squatting almost to pick up a toy from the floor and then stand right back up without holding on to anything.
That's a big deal for balance.
It really is. Shows great progress in coordination and balance.
What else should people be looking for?
Communication-wise, definitely watch for that pointing. Using their finger to show you something they find interesting. That's a really important pre-verbal skill.
Okay.
They might also start bringing you things, toys, objects, maybe even your shoe.
Yes. Sharing their treasures.
Exactly. And while they might begin to understand the word no, well, let's just say obedience isn't guaranteed.
Right. Selective hearing kicks in early. Any other behaviors that pop up around now?
Yeah, you'll likely see more imitation of simple daily actions, pretending to brush hair, holding a phone or remote to their ear, maybe trying to feed a doll.
That's sweet. It's all part of that learning process.
It is, and it's just so important to reiterate these are ranges. Milestones aren't deadlines.
Right, not a checklist to stress over.
Absolutely not. Every child moves at their own pace. The focus should always be on their individual progress over time, not hitting a specific skill by an exact date.
That's such a crucial reminder. Okay, so on the flip side then, are there things, potential red flags maybe, that the sources suggest might be worth chatting with a pediatrician about?
Yes, there are a few things to just keep an eye on. If a child isn't making any attempt to stand up or take any steps by around 15 months, that's definitely worth mentioning to their doctor.
Okay.
Similarly, if they're not using gestures, much like not pointing to things or waving bye-bye that could signal their communication development, might need a little extra support.
Got it. What about verbal communication or social interaction?
Well, if there are really no spoken words, not even consistent, meaningful babbling by this age, or if they don't seem to be imitating any behaviors you do, those are things to bring up too.
Okay.
And also, if you consistently notice they're avoiding eye contact or maybe not responding when you call their name, that's also wise to discuss.
So the key word there is consistently. A one-off thing isn't the same as a pattern.
Exactly. And it's so important to understand bringing these things up with a doctor doesn't automatically mean something is wrong or leads to a diagnosis.
Right.
Early intervention is just about providing support if it's needed, and it can make a really big difference.
That's a really helpful way to frame it. Okay, let's shift again. What about common pitfalls? Things caregivers might want to try and avoid during this 13 to 15-month window.
Well, one big one is comparison. Comparing your child's development, especially things like walking, to other kids.
Yeah, the comparison trap.
It just creates needless anxiety. Remember that huge range for typical walking we talked about?
Yeah.
That applies to lots of skills. Another thing is maybe babying them a bit too much.
How so?
Just, not letting them try things they might actually be capable of. Encourage that budding independence within safe limits, of course. It's really important for their confidence.
That makes sense. Let them try. What about dealing with those big emotions that start showing up?
Try not to jump straight to punishment for frustration or tantrums. Remember, at this age, it's usually about being overwhelmed, not deliberate manipulation.
Right. Their brains just aren't there yet.
Exactly. And practically speaking, avoid really long outings without breaks. They still need rest, structure, snacks. Their little systems get overloaded easily.
Good reminders for planning adventures. Okay, so that's what to maybe avoid. Let's focus on the positive, what should we actively encourage to support them, starting with language.
Oh, definitely. Talk, talk, talk. Name everything. Narrate what you're doing, what they're doing. That's your blue cup. Here comes the yummy banana.
Immerse them in words.
Totally. The more language they hear, the better. And when you ask a simple question, pause. Give them a beat to process and try to respond, even if it's just with a look or a gesture.
Give them that space. What about things like baby sign language?
Yeah, if you've been using it, keep going. Signs for more. Milk, all done. They can be fantastic bridges before spoken words really take off.
Reduces frustration, maybe.
It really can. And remember, understanding language, their receptive language, usually races ahead of their ability to speak, their expressive language.
So they understand more than they can say.
Exactly. So if your toddler is following simple directions, pointing, using gestures, that's all positive communication development, even if they only have a few spoken words.
That's really reassuring. What about families raising kids with more than one language? Any specific advice there?
Great question. Our sources specifically mention this. It's totally normal for kids in multilingual homes to start speaking a bit later. or to mix words from different languages.
It's not a delay?
No, not at all. It's actually seen as a sign of really complex cognitive work happening in their brain. Their brain is juggling multiple systems. The advice is absolutely speak your home language. It's fantastic for them.
Okay, that's brilliant. Good to clear that up. Let's talk about encouraging movement, gross, and fine motor skills. How can we support that?
Big one. Prioritize floor time. Lots of time out of containers like strollers or high chairs, just free to move.
Let them roam.
Within safe boundaries, yes. Offer things like push toys, maybe soft tunnels to crawl through, low, soft climbing things, always with close supervision, naturally.
Right, safety first.
And if they seem interested in stairs, you can practice with lots of support. Going up is usually easier for them at first than coming down.
Okay. And we talked about walking, but it sounds like the focus shouldn't just be on walking.
Exactly. Walking is exciting, but it's not the only measure of motor progress. Remember that wide range, 9 to 18 months, is normal for first steps.
Right.
So focus more on, are they gaining confidence? Is their balance improving? Look for those other skills too, cruising along furniture, climbing onto things, pivoting, standing alone for a few seconds. That all shows progress, even before consistent walking.
That's a much healthier perspective.
Yeah.
And nurturing their imagination, how do we encourage that?
Simple imitation games are great. Give them a toy phone when you're on a call. Ask them to feed a teddy bear.
Let them join in.
Yeah. Let them help with safe chores, like putting clothes in the hamper or wiping the table with a cloth after you. These little pretend play moments are huge for their development.
Okay. Now, back to those tantrums. How can we reframe our understanding of those big emotional moments?
The key is seeing it not as bad behavior, but as their nervous system getting totally overwhelmed.
Like a system overload.
Exactly. Their little brains just don't have the regulation skills yet. They aren't trying to be difficult or manipulate you. It's a sign of dysregulation.
So how do we respond?
With calm.
Yeah.
That's where co-regulation comes in. Your calm, steady presence actually helps their nervous system calm down too. You're basically lending them your calm.
Our calm is their anchor. That makes so much sense. Okay, navigating this whole toddler transition. Any general tips for making it smoother?
Routines can be really helpful. Simple, predictable sequences for mornings, meals, naps, bedtime. It gives them a sense of security.
Knowing what comes next.
Yes. And offer limited, simple choices. Do you want the red cup or the blue cup? It gives them a little bit of control, which they often crave, without being overwhelming.
2 choices, not 10.
Right. And narrate their feelings. You seem frustrated that the block tower fell down. I see you're feeling sad. It helps build that emotional vocabulary.
Naming the feeling.
And when you need to set a limit, which you will, try redirecting first. Instead of just no hitting, try hitting hurts. Gentle hands, please. Let's pat the dog gently like this. Or books aren't for throwing. Let's read this book together on the floor.
Redirect the energy. Got it. Those are super practical. Let's zoom out again, the caregiver mindset. This stage can stir up a lot of feelings for parents, can't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's totally okay to feel a bit nostalgic for the baby days, even while you're excited about their new skills.
Missing the little baby cuddles.
Yeah. And try to reframe what feels like defiance. Often it's just their budding independence, that drive to do things themselves, me do it.
The start of autonomy.
Exactly. Remember, even though these months can feel chaotic, you're building such important foundations for emotional regulation, for language, for trust.
It's foundational work.
It really is. It may be the most important mindset piece. Be kind to yourself. It's okay to feel tired or overwhelmed. You're doing a great job navigating this.
That's a message we all need to hear sometimes. Now, our sources also tackled some really common concerns. Let's touch on a couple. Regression, what's going on when skills seem to go backwards.
It's super common. You might see sleep go haywire, or they stop using a word they knew, or become extra clingy right around a big developmental leap.
Like 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Kind of. A helpful way to think of it is regression is often progress in disguise. Their brain is working hard, integrating new skills, reorganizing. It can temporarily disrupt other things. It usually passes.
That's reassuring. Another big one, separation anxiety. How best to handle those tearful goodbyes.
First, know it's normal. This age range is often peak separation anxiety time. Their distress shows their strong attachment to you.
I mean, they love you.
Exactly. It shows they trust you'll come back, even though it's hard in the moment. Try creating short, predictable goodbye rituals. A quick hug, a special wave. Mommy, daddy always comes back. Keep it brief and confident.
Consistency helps. Okay, and what about discipline? Shifting from baby mode to toddler mode.
Yeah.
How do we set boundaries effectively?
Yeah, it's less about discipline as punishment and more about guidance. Align your expectations with their development. They're learning boundaries, safety, cause and effect.
They aren't many adults testing us.
Not at all. They lack the impulse control and reasoning skills. So focus on redirection, positive reinforcement for behaviors you want to see, and clear, simple, calmly stated limits. Much more effective than timeouts or scolding at this age.
Guide, don't just correct. Makes sense. And as their unique personalities emerge more clearly, how should we think about that? Labels like shy or stubborn.
It's tempting to label, isn't it? But try focusing on observation instead. Instead of, she's so stubborn, maybe she has strong preferences right now.
Describe the behavior, not the child.
Exactly. And remember, cultural context matters too. What one culture sees as shy, another might see as observant. Their temperament is a starting point, not their destiny. Observe more, label less.
That's really wise advice. Now, something that impacts many families, co-parenting dynamics and, frankly, burnout. Any insights there?
Yes, this is a critical point. It's easy for one parent to become the default. Be proactive about sharing the load, even if the child seems to prefer one parent sometimes.
How can couples do that?
Talk about it openly, maybe alternate bedtime routines weekly. Make a real effort to acknowledge and appreciate all caregiver contributions. Discuss the emotional toll, especially if one person feels they're carrying most of it. Finding balance benefits everyone, especially the child.
Vital conversations. And what about the caregiver's own identity and well-being through all this?
So important. Acknowledge if you're feeling touched out. We all need space sometimes. Prioritize even small pockets of time for yourself.
Easier said than done sometimes.
True, but crucial. Think about what recharges you, maybe reconnecting with friends, a hobby, even just a quiet walk. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It makes you a better, more present caregiver.
Absolutely. A supported caregiver is key. Okay, our sources also briefly listed some other common questions parents have around this age. Maybe just mention a few.
Sure, things like, should I worry my child isn't walking yet? Or when should we even think about toilet training? Sometimes sudden clinginess comes up, or decisions about starting daycare.
Are big questions.
Yeah. The general theme is usually patience, remembering developmental ranges, and tuning into your specific child, rather than rushing things based on external pressure.
Right. Trust the process and your child. Yeah. Lastly, there were some lovely reflection prompts for caregivers. What were a few of those?
The really nice things like, what made your child laugh this week? What boundary felt hard to hold, but maybe you found a way that worked? What surprised you about them recently?
Focusing on the small moments.
Yes, and also, what support do you need right now? Turning the focus inward, too.
So valuable to pause and reflect like that.
Yeah.
Okay, as we wrap up this deep dive into the 13 to 15-month stage, what's the single biggest takeaway for our listeners?
I think it's just recognizing these months as this incredibly dynamic period of growth. So much exploration, that budding independence, huge leaps happening everywhere.
And remembering that every child is different.
Absolutely. Celebrate their progress, tune into their cues, forget the comparisons and rigid timelines.
And a final word for the caregivers navigating this busy, amazing, sometimes exhausting phase.
Just patience. Patience with your toddler, tons of encouragement for them, and please extend that same patience and compassion to yourself. You're doing great.
Wonderfully said. And on that note, here's a final thought to ponder. As your toddler dives into this stage of toddling, testing, and transforming, what's the most interesting tension you see playing out between their fierce drive for independence and their deep need for your connection and support? Maybe watch for that this week. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.